Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lorecast. I know it's been a bit of a brief hiatus whenever you're watching this. If you're watching them in order, then it's not been a hiatus. Thank you so much again to Jamie for coming on. You may know her as Mythos on Instagram, for coming on to talk about her amazing webtoons, You Suck. That is the subject of today. Please sit back, enjoy, and we'll see you in the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lorecast. It's been a minute. We went on a brief hiatus, but we're back. And I thought I'd bring it back with something that I've done for a while, which is these like interviews with other content creators. Today, I am with my friend. You may know her on Instagram as Mythos, or some of you may know her as the creator of the fantastic web series You Suck, and that's what we're talking about today. So you go ahead and say hi, Jamie.
Hey,
So
I've never been referred to as a creator before, so yeah.
I mean, you do create the content, and this is a warning for all you underage children. This is a highly romantic webtoon, so I guess it's like a content warning. Maybe I'll put that at the beginning as well. But I read through chapter 10. At the time of this recording, you have up to chapter 11, but we're not going to go into that because that's like past some like pretty major plot points, and I would say that's almost spoilerish for like the rest of the series, and you need to read up until then.
The chapters now are kind of like getting more into the story,
Mhm.
so it's one of those things where like I like slowly progress with the important lore of
Mhm.
the demons and stuff. So if you read past chapter 12, you'll probably see like more of the lore than what I've been like showing. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I think chapters 1 through 10 are like the base ground level lore. Like I even wrote down in like the little outline. All that we really know is there's like some sort of trickery going on. At least that's all I could get from it. Was like demons are here on Earth and they've been here for a long time, but that's like about it. All we know is that the main character was trapped. The main boy was trapped and then freed. So that's like the first chapter you have. Is chapter 1 is I don't even think we know her name yet. If I don't remember, I think it's only in the second one she like
Yeah.
says her name. So like the first one, this mysterious girl falls into a cave and there's like a temple there, and she scrapes her hand and then puts the blood on this like shrine at the temple, and then shows up on her couch. The guy shows up on her couch. That's like the end of the first episode. And that's where I think you laid the comedy down of how the series is going to be. It's very cynical and sassy. So that's another thing that you laid down in these first couple of chapters, is how sassy your webtoon really is.
Yeah, I like to think I'm funny. Um, that's up for debate, but my comedy is very like satirical and like super specific.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been a big fan of like comedy genres,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of prefer like the dialogue to be really natural. And maybe I'm just like a dick to my friends. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Maybe I'm just like I act like that with my friends, but I kind of like I didn't have to think too hard about the dialogue, just because it's like I don't want
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my story to be like too serious, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it goes from serious to pretty naturally comedic, very well. It goes back and forth between the two. At least I got that way. And a little known fact is I know you in real life. It's exactly how I would see you, like your comedy messing around with your friends and stuff. It was really weird to see, and especially when we get into later chapters, whenever you introduce two different characters, it was like the three of you were all back together.
Yes, no. It's kind of interesting because I think some people who know what I look like in real life
Hmm.
and like know what I am like in real life, they've all asked me like, "Is that you?" And I'm like, "Kind of, yeah." I mean, I don't really see a lot of main characters that like MCs that are very not pushovers,
Hmm.
or they're just so two-dimensional. And also like appearances wise, it's just hard to like put yourself in like some like brown-haired like Sam from Let's Play. I
Hmm.
don't know if
Yeah.
anyone who like reads like webtoons like knows who that is. Like
Hmm.
that's how I see most MCs, and I'm like, why can't people also be funny? Like, why can't you talk to people? Like, I feel like dialogue is something that people
Mhm.
have a hard time with, and I just don't. I just would talk like normal. I just think that's like the easiest way to produce dialogue is just think of how you would like interact in that situation.
I
So
think it comes off really natural. At least to me, it did. Um, I feel like most people would find it natural as well if they watched or if they read it. Um, I do. I just like how the way you drew yourself and the other characters. It looks like real people as well. They don't have like super sharp, jagged lines, and they don't look super cartoony. They just look like a drawn person. It comes off really natural. The edges are really soft, and it just looks really good, and it reads really well as well. I read like 1 through 8 in one night in one sitting. It wasn't that difficult. It was just an easy one to keep up because some webtoons I read and I'm like, okay, one, and then I'm done for the day. I can't look at this one anymore. I can't read this one anymore. It's like too difficult. At least I'm not a.
I think that people definitely make theirs really
Mhm.
convoluted sometimes, and I find it really funny because like a lot of Canvas webtoons. I don't know if you know the difference between Canvas and featured. Do you?
I personally don't know. I don't know what the canvas and feature ones are.
Well, if you read webtoons at all, featured is basically like let's play Lore Olympus. Like you get paid to post.
Yeah.
Um, like Canvas is like free publish platform. Anyone can do it.
Mm.
And a lot of people who publish on Canvas, they publish in like the manga style. They publish short chapters. It's like very it's like undated essentially. And I was noticing when I was reading other people's Canvas, it's just hard to keep your attention because it's like so it's like people want to put so much information in one page
Mhm.
because they don't want to make a full length, and I was like I would just rather make it so much easier to read and like make it a certain length where people still like think that it's a full length thing, but
Mhm.
also they enjoy like they can get everything that I need for them to get.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, I like how we kind of got into like the logistics. Usually with like a longer running series, I break it up into 2 videos. One is like the logistics of how they've done it and what like their technique is, and we just discussed that. But since this was a little bit shorter, we can combine the two. Usually, the second episode is where I get into like the base lore and like the story of it all. So I think we'll be able to put that one in with this one as well. So that's a good thing as well. Right now, if you go and read when this episode comes out, you'll have like a nice little introduction to the webtoon, and then you got to sit there and wait like I am, and I'm really upset. I want more right now, but I understand everyone has lives, and we can't just always have it like right then and there. But so I already discussed episode or chapter 1, which is like the base. The inciting incident, which is where this girl falls into a cave, scrapes her hand, and then she gets blood on an altar or like a temple thing. And then this mysterious figure shows up on her couch, and he's like, "What's up?" And she's like, "Get out of my couch! How'd you get in here?" And then in the second one, you start to introduce another thing, which she has this symbol on her hand. Like after she gets this cut, now she has a symbol on her hand, and then it goes into this base of, "Hey, this is a blood bond," and then he talks about how he was being tricked. Um, and then we finally get their names, Elizabeth and, is it pronounced Zelos or Zealous? Because I always just say Zealous.
it's Zealous. I got it from my
Okay.
favorite video game,
Okay, what game is that?
Tales of Symphonia.
Okay, I think I've heard of it, but I haven't played it myself. Um, and then at the end, we see Zealous's friend Mammon, which is like right at the end. So already off the bat, you go from chapter 1 just being about this girl falling into a cave and this mysterious guy showing up on her couch to now we see did you already have like the story in mind when you were going, or were you just like going chapter by chapter seeing like, oh, what can I add on to this that I drew in the other chapter?
It's all very carefully planned out.
Okay, so
All of it.
okay, that's
Everything's super intentional.
so you already have like the end in mind pretty much.
I have the end of the first season in mind, and there's going to be 2 seasons. The second season deals more with the lore, and the first season deals more with like the characters' development.
Okay,
But
okay,
it's going to be like 60 to 80 episodes.
okay. Well, that's good. um So then in the third chapter, I'm just like trying to hit all the main points just so I don't want to go like too deep into it. You have to read for the very funny bits yourself and you have to like look at the art style yourself. I'm just trying to get like the main points of like what the lore is so far set up in these first 10 chapters. I may even skip chapter 10 altogether because it's like, at least to me, it seemed like a major turning point. Maybe also chapter 6 as well. That's like some of the big ones. Chapter 6 and chapter 10 are like, those really go deep into the lore of the first 10 chapters anyway. But then we see that Mammon has changed his name to Mark because he's been here for thousands of years. So I like how you didn't just keep him walking around. It made it feel natural because no one would be called Mammon in the year 2020 or 2019 or anything like that. So
yeah,
yeah.
I think the integration of demons was like the hardest part because as much as I wanted it to be like a fantasy story, the reality of it is that it's set in this time period, and I mean half of the stuff as you said, Zelos, he has
Yeah.
been like locked in this void for 3,000 years, and he's suddenly introduced into like normal society. I had some comments about like certain aspects of the story of him like learning certain things, and I'm like, well, he acts like a kid because like he's never experienced like modern technology.
Yeah, he made a joke, and I don't want to spoil it because it's a pretty funny joke when he's sitting there with Mark. Um, but like you kind of like slipped it a little bit, but then Mark like goes on the internet, which he's like, "Whoa, what is this magical brick you've shown me?" And he's like, "Here, pick out a name." And so then he gets like really quickly picks up Mikhail. Is it Mikhail or Mikhail? I'm
it's
really
Mikhail.
Mikhail.
It's
Okay,
Mikhail, yeah.
good. Okay, so now we know his name is Mikhail. It's like it's all like borderline normal. It's a weird spelling, but it almost sounds like Michael sort of. It's like
It's Russian.
Russian. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Now that makes even more sense. Maybe I should have looked that up. Um, but Mark is the one who's able to tell him what this mark on her, the symbol on Elizabeth's hand is, and that's when we start to get another piece in chapter 4. And this is when we are introduced into the other two friends that are the two of the other side characters who are introduced, and it's really weird seeing them because they look just like their real life counterparts again. We get Ramona and Kim introduced, and they are the three of them together is probably the funniest that the webtoon gets. Honestly, it's just like in real life. If you ever saw the three of them together, it is the most funny thing. And then I'm guessing that like later on we also see later on in the episode that we see Ramona's man come by and it's Harry. I'm guessing that that's supposed to be reminiscent of Harry Styles. I'm not sure.
He's
Just
heavily based off of him because Ramona has like a type, and she was like, if you're gonna give me someone, might as well. And I was like, okay, this is fine. But I didn't really like. I don't want to think too hard on names because I
yeah,
realized that was like the hardest part
for
of
sure.
coming up with the webtoon. So I just kind of like went with it. But it's very lightly based off of. Yeah.
Yeah. And you even like, if you read the comic, you might start to like say, oh, her main characters are designed off of, ooh, this anime character or that anime character, and think it's a ship. But even you left like a note at the bottom of like chapter 3, 4, maybe even, where you're like, this is not based off anyone. This is like how I actually look. I just drew the characters like that. Because people are saying like, what did they say, like Femme Todoroki with Bakugo sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like a quick little side note. A lot of artists get really uncomfortable when people like compare their original characters to previous like, existing characters because like as me and Ramona were talking about it, we were like, I mean, Bakugo doesn't own blonde hair and red eyes.
Yeah.
They're not the same person. And split dye hair is not like a Todoroki thing. I don't even like that ship in real life. Like it was just kind of like this is like me trying to like make someone who looks kind of demonic without actually like I don't know. It was just something that I was like really stressed out about because everyone would comment that, and I was like, is that the only thing you're getting out of this, or it's just kind of like seen as rude to a lot of artists. a lot of creators.
I can see
So
that.
I had to put that in there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did because like they do not act the same. Mikhail and Bakugo are really different. Bakugo is like super ragey and cranky all the time, and Mikhail is like, I don't want to say naive, but he likes like he goes to the market and gets like Cookie Crisp, and he only eats super like sugary things, and so like,
He drinks respect lemon juice. That's the difference. He's a himbo through and through. That's what I like about him.
he's a really sweet boy so far. And then finally in chapter 5 is when we get, I guess I would say the main antagonist. Should I like spoil his name or like maybe just
Yeah,
leave
you
that
go
for the
for it.
reader? Okay. So we find out why Mikhail was trapped in there. We find out that his brother, Ezekiel, threw him in there. Threw him in this, like the void, I guess is what you wrote it down as. And then Mark tried to come, but that's when we find out, like, oh, because in chapter 4, I didn't even or chapter 3 or 4, I didn't even talk about it, but like, Mikhail was like, why didn't you come after me? He's like, I couldn't. So then that's what we find out in chapter 5 is why he couldn't. Because Ezekiel was like there, and Mark was like, no, you can't. And this is when we start to get like a even deeper piece of lore about the symbol on her hand. I don't know how I would explain it. It like made him less immortal or made her more immortal. They're like on this thin line where she can't age but she can be killed, sort of thing.
Yeah, if you want me to explain all of that, I totally am down because it's
Yeah,
already in
absolutely.
there.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd rather
The
hear it from you than me try and like shoddily try and come up with something and make it half-assed.
yeah, so the way it works is like there's a lot of demon lore that's like I'm going to add in later to
Mhm.
deal with the tattoos that they have on them. That's all relevant. All of it's very relevant.
Mhm.
The lightning's very relevant. All of that. But when he was sealed down there, I tried to explain it that his brother sealed him down there. So when a human faces him, he's bonded to her. His like immortality is like on a thin line. So he can now die.
Mhm.
And she won't die from like natural causes, but she can still be killed. So they're both on that same like limbo. And the whole point was for him to be killed by his brother. So
Okay. That explains it much better than I could. Um, I like that a lot. It's you've been setting up like stepping stones. I'd say through each chapter we get like a small piece of lore here, a small stepping stone here, like a little tweak to something that even like we've already had like flashbacks even to previous episodes or previous chapters. I think chapter 6 is a pretty good one. This one sets up like how demons in your webtoon um, operate. When they're really hungry, they can feed off the energy or even something physical like blood. Um, so that's when you make like jokes about like, oh, every politician is a demon, every sort of like rich person is. So and you even like say that some of them feed off of good emotions and some of them feed off bad. Um, I don't want to say like I don't know what I don't think you've gone into like which one Mikhail like feeds off
prefers.
of. Yeah, prefers. I don't think you've really like said that yet, and I'm sure you probably will. But at least we don't see like what Mark and Mikhail. But I think it's like inferred that Ezekiel really likes the violence. I
Violence?
guess that's like his one. I would say.
Yeah.
I think you may
Well,
have actually said that like towards chapter 10.
yeah.
Okay,
The
yeah, that's where I got that from.
the feeding, I guess. I hate that it's called that. I so cringy. Whatever. The whole point to that was that like I wanted to make all of these demons and these mythologies come together in some way that wasn't, like forced. And I did it in a way where these demons, like the seven deadly sins, or vampires, or like incubuses, or whatever you want to call these things that feed off of specific like
Mm.
traits or attributes or physical things, they're all the same thing. But certain demons prefer certain things.
Mm.
And in a modern setting, demons can roam around and do their thing because they just have to put themselves in situations where they're surrounded by a
Mm.
specific like energy. So their jobs were carefully like thought out. Mark, if you guys don't know, is a fashion designer.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't say
Carrie
that yet. My
and
bad.
all of them,
Mm.
yeah, they're like models.
Mm.
I did that because those people are surrounded by certain like sins, certain like energies. So that's kind of how they sustain themselves.
Okay, I can see that. I think you even had like an outline of like a demon whose there was vanity, and it was like a camera. I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
could be like whenever they're a model, they get kind of fed from it. Um, we also like in that same episode or same chapter, chapter 5, we see that she goes on a walk, or chapter what is it? Chapter 6. Chapter 6. She goes on a walk, and all of a sudden she's like super hyper aware, but she's trying to rationalize like, oh, I've been aware before. This is just normal, but like something already seems off. She's like super hyper aware of like everything going on around her. So is that like a byproduct of the symbol, or we kind of see it later on in like chapter 9?
Yeah. So the story, I wanted it to be a lot about demons and
Mm.
a lot about like, the lore, but also it's truly a romance, and it
Mm.
deals a lot with interpersonal relationships and dealing with like traumatic like things and like healing. Um, and personally, I use this as a vent piece for myself because I have like PTSD and stuff like that, and I
Mm.
wanted to show a main character with that and learn to like grow from that. So the whole point is like there are things that she's dealing with that even don't have anything to do with these demons, and
Mm.
she's her own character apart from him and his world.
I
So
can see
she
that.
has paranoia from other stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh, I do like how it's very relatable, and I do like how the main character is a little bit separated from all the things that are going on around her. Because sometimes you'll watch like a movie or something, or even read a book, and then all of a sudden this character is swept up into the world, and like they forget who they once were, sort of thing. They turn into this completely different character, and so far, Elizabeth has turned into like has stayed the same character throughout the first chapters. So I like that a lot. It's very consistent and it keeps the story grounded. And I guess that's part of like why it's easy to read. Because like if you watch like some sort of superhero movie or even read like some of the webtoons, like the character will go from like a super sassy character to like this really shy character to all of a sudden a major badass. You're like, all right, well they can't be a Mary Sue sort of thing.
Yeah, Mary Sue's are kind of like my pet peeve. When I was making this the whole time I was like, what do I not like? Like like I know in my summary I say that it's like Twilight meets Indiana Jones.
Mm,
I unironically like Twilight. It's a nostalgic thing for
yeah.
me. And I think about it and I'm like, what did I hate about Bella the whole time? I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that anymore. Learn by mistakes.
Oh my gosh. All right. So after that, we find out finally what she does for a living, and she works at a museum. And I think that's where did the museum job come from? Was that just something you've always wanted to do, so you put it for your character?
I'm an art history major.
Oh, all right, there you go. That makes that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. And then we see her boss. I don't know. Nothing's been really said too much about her boss, Theo. He's just kind of there for this episode. I'm sure you're gonna have him come back later because so far you've been sticking to Chekhov's gun, which is like if there's a gun hanging on the wall, use it later on in the story. So far you've had like if you've mentioned it or used it, it's come back. Nothing has been like, oh, what happened to this character or what happened to this meaningful lore back there. It's just not showed up again. So far everything has, so I'm sure something will come out of Theo, but nothing has super yet. I'm interested to see what he's all about.
I don't think I had named the boss yet. It was the coworker.
Oh, the coworker. I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
you have the coworker there as well, who's like in love with the manager.
Yeah. Yeah. The boss. Yeah, he's definitely important. Well, I
Hmm.
see a lot of speculations about him, and it's really funny to like see people like come up with things in the comments. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I absolutely. That's like a byproduct of coming into it a little bit later. Is you'll see people like, oh, I wonder what this character is going to mean. Oh, I wonder what this is going to happen in like chapter 1, and then you get to chapter, 5 or 6, and you're like, oh, that's what that meant. And I'm like, yeah, I was able to read it in one go, but they had to sit there and like wait for it. So I kind of blessed coming in a tiny bit later. Um, but that's just because I didn't keep up with social media for a little bit, so I was late to the party.
That's fair.
Um, I try to stay off social media a little bit. Um, I think chapter 8 starts off with my favorite, where it's just Mark and Elizabeth just like dunking on Mikhail the whole
I
time. Like
love it.
at the very beginning, it's so good. Um, we also see that like Mark goes in deep to like what the symbol is, and it is to kill Mikhail at the cost of like Elizabeth is the thing that allows him to die. So if she dies, he dies, sort of thing. And that's when we actually find out that Ezekiel is Mikhail's brother. That's sort of like thrown in there too. I think it's kind of inferred in the earlier ones.
Yeah.
And then Mark is the one who catches Elizabeth up on like, hey, this is what demons feed off of. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So it's like Elizabeth is finally figuring out what we find out. So I like that more than when like if the audience knows something but the characters don't, but then all of a sudden the character knows. I think that's pretty goofy as well. So I like how you've also caught each character up with everything that needs to happen. So if you said it earlier to us, the audience, you'll tell to a character later on somehow. So I like that as well.
There's like
Mm,
there's certain parts too that I remember. Was it so they're my characters change names because they have to have like names for their
mm,
like modern names or whatever. And I think there was like one point where I showed that like she changed like Mikkel changed his name to Mikkel, and like Elizabeth like remembered that's like I inferred that he like said something. There's like little stuff like that that I have to like really keep in mind the whole time that
mm,
I don't show on screen,
mm.
and it's kind of nerve wracking because one day I know I'm gonna forget something. There's gonna be like total plot hole. And
Oh
it's
my
gonna suck.
gosh.
Oh
Um,
god.
start writing it down. I don't know, like keep it there on like a notepad. Like this is important.
Definitely.
And then at chapter 9 is when we start to see like he is the naive one. He loves the sugary things, but even Elizabeth like thinks to herself, "Hey, he's pretty chipper for all the shit he's gone through." Um, like if there are some characters who would go through these traumatic incidences and they'll just be like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm over it. I'm powerful." But we see that like he's not like super over it, but he's rather chipper, so he's not like I'm powering through it and I'm not a weak character at all. He has vulnerability, and I keep bragging about how like really easy it is to read and how relatable it is. But that I think that's like the most relatable thing is like he's not this all powerful, super super sexy, I'm ready to take on the world and I am amazing sort of guy. I like that a lot about Mikhail most, I think.
He's he's what I like look for in like friends.
Yeah.
He I wanted to show him like show the audience that he was adaptable
Mm-hmm.
because for someone who's been alive, like who's been immortal, they're probably going to be fairly adaptable
Mm-hmm.
just with like everything like constant change. And that was a quality I really wanted to push in him because he is aggressive in certain ways, but and I would say he's childish, but I think it's just because like there's that childlike wonder with like everything new,
Yeah.
and I wanted like people to remember that because people were mischaracterizing him as like certain like things where he's just like a child, and I'm like yes, but he got betrayed.
Yeah.
He was there were bad things that happened, and I really wanted like people to remember that like he has like not the easiest um I guess life, I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Yeah. And he
So
was trapped in a void, so it's not like he could adapt. So he's like flung into this world of brand new things, and he adapts pretty well. Not perfectly, of course, but
yeah.
it's pretty good. It's like a good balance between like he's not that really weird character like from like I'd say the Fifth Element where it's like she's just
Yeah.
super naive, but she's not like absolutely perfect. I would say like borderline Captain America. He adapts too quickly for me anyway. I think he's just a little bit too already there, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a good balance. And chapter 9, I think, is like a pivotal moment of like a really big almost spoiler. I don't even know if I want to like say what happens at the end of it, but this chapter 9 is where we see he's like the naive one. He likes sugar and thinks about it's pretty good for what he's been through. But then Elizabeth gets a text from Kim about hanging out, and then they're like back and forth, like, "Ooh, is he hot?" sort of thing. Roommate, you only have one bed. But we see this like disembodied voice and a hand appear to Elizabeth, and no one else is around. So like Mikhail is the one who snaps her back to reality. I don't think we see within these first few chapters about what that hand and that voice is. At least I don't think. At least I never saw and connected anything with it as well.
A lot of it's abstract,
Mm-hmm.
just abstract paranoia, abstract
I
like
guess I could.
anxiety.
Yeah. I guess you could. I see that since you said the hyper awareness was, um, a byproduct of her traumatic past, and having this, it like the voice said, "I would do anything for a piece of that ass." I guess I could connect that to like a traumatic experience back in the past as well. So now she's super hyper aware and like having this moment of like non lucidity, like something is happening to her. But Mikhail is like, "Hey, what's up? I'm here. It's fine." Um, and then whenever Elizabeth sends the picture of Mikhail to Kim and Ramona, something happens to Ramona. She gets all sparkly and angry, and she breaks her phone. And everyone in the comments was like, "Whoa, what's wrong with Blondie? What's happening with her?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
I thought it was obvious. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like when you're writing something, you think something's a lot more obvious because you have all like the details in your head.
Hmm.
But I thought it was obvious that she was a demon straight away. I thought that would
Yeah.
be the cue for that chapter. Um,
I
it
did.
wasn't.
Yeah. I grabbed onto it pretty well just because like I was like, well, it keeps on going, so it's not like she's going to be the main antagonist or anything. I don't think you would portray Ramona as an antagonist.
What?
At least not yet. um, um, but then chapter 10. So this is, I guess, where we can like end all of the summary so far, and then we can just talk back and forth about anything you want to talk about. I didn't see too many questions because it's only in the early stages, so I might have a few questions. I don't have any on hand because I wasn't super planning on it because it's not like super esoteric. But chapter 10 is where we see that Ramona is in fact a demon, and so is Harry, her man's. Um, and Ramona's like, "Wow, he's back." So we can infer that Mikhail, maybe in this episode anyway. I don't want to talk for chapter 11, but it's like, wow, Mikhail is back. He's a pretty bad guy. His brother is anyway. So this one was like really focused on Ramona and Harry, and she's like, there is something bad's gonna happen because this guy, anything who gets close to this guy, something bad happens too. And we see Ramona talks about someone named Eli. I'm guessing that's their child because you haven't said like outright.
Ellie.
Ellie. Oh, why did I say
Yeah.
Eli? I probably
Yeah.
just pronounced it wrong. I'm really bad. But she said history will not repeat itself. So we're probably going to get like backstory on like the history of this this Ezekiel guy, obviously, because it's only chapter 10. But that's all I had up until now. I didn't think we'd go into chapter 11 because from that point on, it's a really easy read, so anyone can read it as well.
Thank you for stroking the ego.
Yeah. Yeah, I like I said before, it is an easier read, and if you have ever met the three of them, the what they call the Holy Trinity, that is Ramona, Kim, and Jamie, you would see that it's just them straight up on the page, and that's the most relatable thing about it, because like even I have done this where like I'll write something down about a friend of mine and like boost them to way more than they are or way under what they are. And so it comes off as like, they're not a very interesting character, but it's just, this one is very relatable.
Well, it's funny because I wanted to do a webtoon on shonen with like characters that are my own OCs and like complete and total like like not based off of anything real,
Yeah.
and that was hard. So I thought I'd try something that's more romance and something that I just like would find easy, come like it would just come to me. And it's funny because my friends and I sat them down and I was like, so tell me your worst quality,
Hmm.
like your worst quality trait, like what's the thing? And because I mean, I told them straight away, I was like, I'm not gonna make you perfect. Like you're not gonna be, like I can call you out right now, but I want to know yours.
Uh,
And I mean, like they told me like the thing that they think is like the worst part
hmm.
about themselves, like their like toxic trait or whatever. And all of my characters are important. Everything that I've shown
Hmm.
is important. I didn't put anyone in there for like a small amount of screen time. I know
Yeah.
Kim's been on there in there for like a chapter or two, but she's really important for later.
Hmm.
Like everyone comes together. You've met basically the full cast, and
Okay.
my friends are super important. And I think that a lot of um, webtoons kind of like gloss over the friends. That
Yeah.
just makes me really sad because like I want to know about their interpersonal relationships and their dynamics, and I just wish that more people would do that.
Yeah. Um. So I. This is supposed to go up like right after Halloween or right before if you're watching it on the day it comes out. It's not really horror, but it's like it is romance. It's like a romance one. I could see like Crunchyroll picking this one up honestly, because I
Don't
mean,
do that to me.
I mean,
Don't say that to me.
no, I'm just saying like I could see it as an anime. Even if it's one of those like 5 minute ones that they put in between like commercials on like Japanese TV or whatever. Like if you go to like Verve or Crunchyroll, they have like those 5-10 minute ones. I could see that being one of those. It'd be really interesting to see as a cartoon or an anime. And you already said like before we started recording, like some people have already tried to do voiceovers for it.
Yeah.
So you've already built up a pretty good fan base, and they are loyal. I see you have like a Patreon down there, and it says like, oh, she has this many patrons. I'm like, wow, um, it's pretty good. Um,
Yeah, thank you. I was very shocked.
um, yeah, and that's something that I think all creators will strive for. Like even Lorecast here, we've been on for a while. I did stop it for a second, but that's just because I tried to do too many things at once, and I think that's like, do you focus mostly on just this and like for your creative outlook or out?
Oh boy.
Hmm?
Oh boy.
Oh,
Um,
do you do you also try and do too many things? At least you're consistent with it. Like I was trying to run
yeah.
like 3 channels, and now I'm down to pretty much just this one. So it was too much for me. But at least even if you are trying to do too much, you still have a good focus and like and are able to put in the time for it. And it really shows. It's very cohesive. That's what I'd like to say about it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Every waking moment. Every waking moment. If I draw something, it's to advertise for it.
Yeah.
If I make a TikTok, it's to advertise for it.
Okay.
If I make a Patreon post, it's for the webtoon. I mean,
Hmm.
like, I can't escape it at this point. It's like a full time job, and
Okay.
I don't know how people do this for free, like me, but um, it's a passion project for sure. Like, you
Hmm.
have to be absolutely dedicated to the success of it. Otherwise, and realistic, of course.
Yeah.
But
You sound like someone else that I have had on here, and then he became like a co-host, Devin from Beetle Milk. That's exactly what he was saying too. Like,
mhm.
so it's really interesting to see all these creators that I've interviewed, and like everyone so far started it off as a passion project, but then it like becomes their main job at some point. So if you keep staying dedicated, maybe it'll just be your full time. Would you want to do this as a full time job? Like this is all you
Hell
do
yeah,
for the rest of your life is just draw
hell yeah,
webtoons?
oh hell yeah. Uh, I wish they had this competition on Webtoon, but I was not a part of it apparently.
Mm.
So I mean, it's fine. It's just one of those things where it's like,
It's fine. Yeah, don't include me.
oh,
That's cool.
yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm fine. I was really fine. I'm so sorry.
um, yeah, I will absolutely share this episode with everyone that I can. We don't have a ton of listeners. But I'll be sure to have like my friends share it everywhere so we can get the most outreach possible so we can get more readers onto your webtoons. I'll have like all the links down below in the show notes, I guess, for Spotify listeners, and like in the link in the description on the YouTube channel. So I'll spread it far and wide, and then I'll send you the link after we're done. And that'll be that. This is like the first episode back after a brief hiatus. I'm glad it was another one of these interviews. These are the best ones I've done on Lorecast. Whenever it's me and the boys fucking around, shooting the shit about some like cool thing we read, it sucks. But whenever I get nitty gritty down with like a creator, it turns out pretty well. And the fan base usually comes and flocks to it. So I hope this is a good one for all you listeners out there. I hope it's a good listen. Jamie, would you like to let everyone know where they can find you? Anything you want to shout out? Go for it.
Yeah, my webtoon is You Suck with the exclamation point, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ethos with 3 eyes. MIIITHOS. I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Lorecast. There's not, the story is ongoing, so that's why it's a short one. And we didn't go super in depth, but that's going to do it for this episode of Lorecast. Thank you again, Jamie, for coming on. And I cannot wait to absolutely see where this goes. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Lorecast. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode of Lorecast, where we cover You Suck by my friend Jamie, or you may know her on Instagram as Mythos, Miithos. If you listen to it or if you follow her, make sure to let her know that I sent you. If you decide to read up on the webtoons, let her know that you came from this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and we are going to see you all in the next one.